Hello everybody, welcome back to another video where I talk over a game, and today I wanted to talk about what I think would be a good job for somebody with AuDHD or ADHD or autism. Now of course this is my idea of what makes a decent job or what would be good to look for. Obviously everybody's situation is different, so I'm really just going from my own perspective here. So I think what you like to do is definitely important, but you also need to look at what are the conditions under which I'm going to be doing a said job. Meaning, figure out for yourself what you would need, like how many hours are you comfortable working, what type of setting would you like to work in, how many people around you or how little people around you, do you want to be able to work from home and stuff like that. And see if any of the job opportunities that you're looking at match that, or at the very least, if you are at an interview, make sure to ask questions about that without actually going into, oh, hey, I have needs and can you fulfill those? Because I think in particular with job interviews, they're looking for what you can give them and not so much what they can give you, even though it is a perfectly good time to ask questions like that, like what can you do for me? Because you're also interviewing them. It's not just them interviewing you. But I would just try to avoid labeling it as needs, or more like casually going like, oh, hey, is it possible, for instance, for me to work like from home 1 day a week or 2 days? Like, what's the atmosphere like on the workplace? Can I see it? What type of desks do you have? Just casual questions that suggest that you're just interested in the environment itself to try and figure out if it's going to be something for you. As far as the job itself goes, I think it would be good to do something or to specialize in something that you can also find work for in different places, or you could potentially do as an independent contractor or something along those lines. Like personally, I am currently in e-learning development or instructional design, whichever you want to call that. And that is a position that could be done independently. Companies do occasionally just hire somebody for a project. And then when the project is done, you go your separate ways. The reason I'm saying that is because you might encounter situations where you interview well, you actually get through the initial trial period, you get a contract at some place, and then after a while, the people on the work floor start to annoy you, or there's this atmosphere that's created because they don't understand you and stuff like that. And they might want to leave, or you may even be let go, either one of those. And then it would be great if you had some type of profession that you could easily go ahead and go to the next place. And a role where you kind of do your own thing would also be very good. Like I said, I'm into instructional design. Basically, I am the only person right now who does that within the company. That means I set my own plans, I set my own schedule. And due to the nature of the work, I can either do something that's more administrative or technical or a little bit creative. There's quite a bit of variation there. And I think with AuDHD, you need variation. So some type of job that has a lot of variation within itself, I think would be something to aim for. Now, I don't know all the different jobs that are out there, so I can't really give you a list of what would be a good job to have. But yeah, definitely flexibility, variation, some level of independence, and options to take a break or go work from home on certain days when you may be feeling a little bit overwhelmed would be great. And I find that certain companies tend to be a little bit less rigid, and they tend to be the startup types or the small companies that have only really just started growing and things haven't really been finalized yet. When I'm talking like a hierarchical sense, like things are still very ad hoc, they call that over here. It just happens when it happens, and if somebody has a good idea, they really only need to talk to a few people in order to see whether it's accepted or not, and then it's just carried out. Like that type of almost innovative environment, I think works really well, because it's a bit of an anything goes type of environment. And I think in a situation like that, you could also potentially specialize in a certain area in that company that then later becomes a whole department, and then you're kind of like at the head of that, maybe as an expert rather than an actual manager, unless you like want to be a manager. Now, of course, the risk with startups and small companies like that is that they can very easily go belly up. Or what also tends to happen is that a small company attracts the attention of a larger company that doesn't really have that flexible work structure. And then the innovation atmosphere kind of slowly drains away as everything gets standardized according to the larger company's wishes. And that is where specializing in a certain field would be in handy, because then you can just go ahead and find a position at a similar type of company to continue your career at. Meanwhile, I think it's very important to have a good resume just to get yourself in the door. Making a good resume is often very difficult because a lot of people just don't really know what to put in there. Of course, you're going to put your schooling in there and any diplomas that you have, experience, etc., etc. But a good resume also has something in the resume that applies specifically to the job posting that you're replying to. Like, you might not have the diploma that they are specifically asking for in their job posting, but if you can explain that your experience is very relevant for the position and how that's helped you and what you learned from it, etc., etc., what your goals are in that direction as well, it should help get you an interview at the very least. And since a lot of companies are these days using some type of AI software to go through all the different resumes that are sent in, it also helps to put some keywords in there as well. So type out a part of your experience that is relevant. Make sure to put as many different words in there that hint towards a certain level of experience. Hopefully that'll convince the AI to have them take a look at your resume next time they look at the results of their screening. And then, of course, when you actually go to the interview, make sure to highlight that part of your resume, back it up with some examples, and prepare a few examples actually, because they might ask for more than one thing. Some people, when they're interviewing, they're very sneaky, and they can kind of tell when you've prepared an answer to a certain question. So then they like to ask another one after that, like, oh yeah, but what about a more recent example of this? Can you tell me more about that? Or they try to ask you pretty much the same question, but then a slightly different variation. And then you need a different answer than the one you gave before, because they're looking for more information and not a retelling of the original experience. So make sure to have a few of those in your back pocket. And just as a little bonus suggestion when it comes to interviewing, if they start asking you things like, what type of people are you like the least fond of, or something along those lines, make sure to be very diplomatic in your answers, because they may be thinking, oh, maybe this person won't be a very good fit for this particular department, which might mean that there are certain people already on the department that you might not get along with. There might be a few people there that may be described as difficult, like type A type personalities maybe. Or they might think that your personality is going to clash. So if they start asking questions like that, then think to yourself if you really want this job or if you are also able to apply somewhere else. It's not a red flag necessarily, but it's a bit more of a yellow flag, like caution. Maybe there's something going on over here. So if you have other opportunities lined up, maybe go for those first and keep this one in your back pocket. So basically, you just need to be flexible in more ways than one. Look for a setting that would work for you. Look for a type of work that gives you variation and all sorts of options, that doesn't have you working for a big team or where people are constantly trying to ask you to do things or trying to get your attention, etc. But you're allowed to do some focused work every now and then. And like I said, I think startups and small companies might be a good option. Now, that doesn't mean that you couldn't get a good job in a large corporation. It's just that the structure of the corporation may be a little stifling, and it may also have a certain culture there of people trying to get to the top, and then somebody who is AuDHD might stand out and might turn into the stepping stone for people that want to get up higher, like that type of thing. Or at least I've seen that quite a bit as well. You'll have somebody who is really experienced and just really does his job really well, but they don't actually get the promotion because it's the person that takes that other person's work and starts gallivanting around with it that actually gets the promotion and stuff like that. So try not to be in that type of environment, or at least be aware that that might be an option, because those places also tend to be filled with office gossip, and we don't tend to do very well in the gossip rounds, so that's something to look out for. And in that same line of thinking, if you are female, then try to not work at an office space with mostly females, because if it's mostly females, there tends to be a lot of gossip. I've seen that quite often. Now, if it happens to be a team of great women, that'd be awesome, but usually there is some gossip going on. There's a couple of mean girls in there that kind of rule the roost, so to speak. If you don't fit in there, you're literally going to get henpecked. So something else to keep in mind. But those are my thoughts on what would be a good job or a good career path for somebody with AuDHD, potentially also ADHD and autism. Let me know in the comments what your experiences are. I'd like to hear other people's experiences as well and viewpoints. Maybe people can learn from your viewpoint as well. In any case, thanks for listening. Hope to see you in the next video, and bye-bye for now.